Hey everyone, I'm John Lind, the founder and chief editor at Healthcare IT Today. We're excited to bring you another in our series of interviews with top leaders in health IT. And our guest today is Jim Jacobs, he's CEO at MediQuant. Welcome, Jim.
Thank you.
Good to have you here. You know, we've had a lot of discussions over the years, lots to dive into. I think we've seen a big evolution since we first started talking, but for those that may not know you, tell us a little bit about yourself and MediQuant.
Jim Jacobs, President and CEO. I've been here since 2016. MediQuant's been around since 1999.
Wow.
Pioneering the space in general, so glad to be here.
Last time we talked, MediQuant was innovating around application rationalization and AI. Like, how have those topics advanced over this past year, and what developments could you share with me since we last chatted?
Sure. Yes, we're fortunate that we have great customers who collaborate with us, help inform us on what their priorities are, and there's really a top list they have of reducing cyber exposure, managing overall tech footprint, trying to reduce tech footprint, saving money, obviously. Application rationalization fits into that. It can help you roadmap what you should archive. It also helps you build a data argument instead of just a subjective argument about why we need to get rid of certain systems. There are people who like the systems they still use and they don't want to get rid of them.
Yeah.
So this helps elevate the discussion by making it a lot more objective than subjective. AI, wow, that's a lot for two letters. We've adopted a philosophy of responsible AI. We think there's too many people going too fast, and there's going to be some mistakes made. There's a risk. And when we give an answer to a customer, to a physician, someone's in the middle of decision making, we want to make sure we're reliable. So we are down the path of AI. We're using it system-wide. We've got experiments going. We're in production with a patient accounting AI model now.
Wow.
We use it internally for a lot of use cases. We're also using it for bringing data in. We manage a lot of data, so we use AI in those use cases. Because we've also advanced towards clinical summaries, but we're waiting for some of the models to advance on adopting full AI for a completely hands-off, say physician recommendations, things like that. I think that's still a little bit further in the future, but very exciting, a lot going on. I think we've changed more product-wise in the past 12 months than the previous 5 years.
Wow, that's amazing to hear. I think it's also interesting because in many ways, MediQuant is storing much of the data that's going to power the other AI solutions out there. I imagine that's an important focus as well.
It is. So if you go back to our why, Simon Sinek tells you to figure out your why. We liberate data for secondary use. There's two thoughts around AI, which is which use cases should we support? Where do we have a right to play? Patient accounting is one. There are some clinical summaries and things that are another, but you also want to make sure we package the data for other people to use the data. So many of our hospital customers are building their own AI engines. Let's feed the data into their own engines, make the data available. So it's a great two places to play, which also means we don't have to be all things to all people to be successful.
Yeah, that's really interesting. You know, I heard an interesting quote from you about how application rationalization should really be kind of elevated to a board level discussion. It shouldn't just be a IT project on the side. Like, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, there's an important topic behind that, which is how do these projects get done? Who supports them? And too many times historically, this became an IT to-do. We bought the new EHR, just go shut down the old EHR.
Deal with the old one.
Okay, that's an easy decision to make. But what about the ancillary systems? What about a group, applications that's used just in one group? What about applications that are only used by a certain group of individuals, and now that data is now in the new EHR, right? Instead of just making CIOs go out and battle the various constituents, make this a strategic initiative, because the fewer software applications you have, the smaller your cyber footprint, the less risk you may have. With using us to actually archive it and help roadmap it, you can staff it, you can do your projects in a sensible, orderly fashion. And the biggest thing is a lot of these older systems, they've stopped paying maintenance on them. Now you might have a cyber risk because you're not getting software patches. That's why we think it's a board level discussion, not a daily discussion at the board level, but they need to support these initiatives so that all constituents see the value in shrinking the footprint.
Yeah, no, I think it's an important investment, but I love that you're pushing forward. You're doing more than just application rationalization and then just creating an archive that no one accesses. Like you mentioned the clinical patient summaries. I'd love to hear more about What's involved in that? I know you also mentioned DICOM imaging as well in some of your newest features in DataArc. Tell us, what are you doing there? What's the thinking around these kind of more patient-focused and provider-focused solutions, I'd say?
Yeah, it starts with, we want to be able to walk into the office of the CIO and say, we can archive anything. And no ... no caveats, no asterisks.
Okay.
So that's where the addition of DICOM comes in.
Okay.
And especially when these hospitals are picking up ambulatory or smaller systems, there's lots of DICOM images out there with no place to go. Okay. Typically. So that's where that started. The summaries are having to do with, how do you help clinicians do more, get to things. They have so little time to start with. The demands on the average clinician just continue to skyrocket. So what can we do to help? We already have active use cases where they can go straight from their EHR and get the data. Sure. So why don't we take the time to actually give them a summary view? They can still click through and get to all the detail they want. Sure. But if they're about to do rounds, give them the snapshot, give them what they need from the patient historical perspective, because just because they have high blood pressure now, that may be a fact of they're in pain from a hip fall, breaking a hip, and not part of their medical record. That's an important thing for a clinician to know. It's a simple example, but that's why those things became areas where we started spending time, because we've always believed the data is valuable. Yeah. That's why we've always focused on discrete data or getting data out of documents, because it's needed in the clinician's hands.
It does feel like a bit of a shift, though, to me, for a lot of organizations to say, okay, I was archiving because of compliance, because of security, those type of things, to now I'm archiving and making it into something that will directly impact patient care. I mean, a clinical summary, a patient summary, really is impacting patient. Is that the goal, is to kind of create features that do impact the patient care and leverage the data effectively?
That's one of the sets of use cases. Mm-hmm. We have similar use cases in the ERP world, because we archive ERP. We have capabilities in patient accounting. There's active patient accounting, denial scorecards. How have payers been behaving previously? Mm-hmm. That's actionable data that the PFS team needs. Then also the documents. I don't know the percentage, but it's high 70, 80% of all data is in documents. So pull data out of documents. That'll add to the clinical summaries. Yeah. Those are all capabilities that come together in helping clinicians, helping tell the patient story, even giving data to patients through patient portals. Absolutely, that should be part of what everyone's looking at. Yeah.
How do these recent announcements and the other things you're working on, how are they reflecting the challenges that you're addressing for CIOs and clinical leaders that they've been interested in solving? What are some of the things you're hearing from them and ways you're able to help them?
I think it's similar to what you said, which is there's been a journey from just get it archived to, wait a minute, that data is valuable. And when someone starts thinking about data as an asset, as opposed to an IT to just to shut it down, the conversation changes. Because now we're going to say, well, what is the data? What type of data? How do we link it together? How do we make sure it's the correct data? You start asking a lot more sophisticated questions, and that then leads into new product capabilities, new features. It starts building your roadmap for you as people start to embrace more and more that the data is available. I used the phrase the other day, it's a data playground, right?
Interesting, a data playground. I mean, it highlights how your approach is tying together the application rationalization that you've done for a long time, right? And is important, but moving beyond that, and beyond the data archiving part of application rationalization into a more unified data lifecycle strategy. Like you said, someone who's just I need to archive this versus, data is an asset for me. Why is that critical for a health system to approach these areas in this kind of interconnected way rather than separate efforts like you said, a checkbox versus a strategic decision?
I think it's important for sort of what I'd say the top list of things that concern CIOs, which is, what is our cyber risk?
Okay.
And if you could go from 100 software applications to 50, you could argue you just reduced your cyber risk.
Yeah, that's fair.
How much are we in compliant or not? So some of the dashboards in our application rationalization actually let you look at the age of your data, compare it against your data retention roadmap, and then start to make decisions about, what do we do with the data? Do we need to keep it all? Do we put it in cold storage? Now it's active. Now we're actively managing the ecosystem of all of our IT assets. it's a new way of thinking about things, and it also involves the constituents, the clinicians,
Sure.
HIM. HIM is an extremely important group within the ecosystem because they've got to do release of information. They're responsible for compliance, right? So they need to have data that helps them inform, are they safe? Are they in compliance? That's how this all of a sudden gets far more strategic than just take that data and take it offline.
Interesting. And then it goes back to where we started, which is if we can leverage that data for AI, that becomes even more strategic as well.
To us, AI is gasoline on that fire. Because if it's an asset and now you're giving new insights and we can feed engines, the hospital systems, we can add some use cases, all of those start benefiting the entire hospital ecosystem, not just the clinicians, it's all of them.
Yeah, and starting with the patient, which is really fascinating.
It is. I mean, imagine a CIO having a risk dashboard that's AI powered.
Thank you so much, Jim. I appreciate you chatting with me. It's always insightful to learn from you and all the work you're doing at MediQuant. And thanks everyone for watching and listening. If you want to find more great healthcare IT content like this, be sure to check it out at healthcareittoday.com or search for Healthcare IT Today on your favorite podcast applications. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.